I'm excited to be here with you guys tonight. It's good to come to a meeting with people with like hearts, that they are interested, motivated, and moving forward, and going outside the four walls of their church and looking cross-culturally. That's very exciting. A little bit of my background. I was an IMB missionary in Uruguay for 29 years with the International Mission Board, and we've been back 3 years now, and we're plugged in with the Hispanic work in Memphis, and I'm an interim pastor right now of one of the Hispanic churches, Pueblo de Dios, for a couple of months more. I think we're about ready to hand that off. But one of the things I wanted to say in introduction is the Hispanics are a mission field. But as you move through this process, you're going to find that Hispanics are a missionary force. I'm going to illustrate that. I preached in Batesville, Mississippi yesterday. The church is 30, it's a bilingual church. They have 30 members. And yesterday was Lottie Moon Christmas offering, promotion, and praying. The pastor of that church goes to Indonesia twice a year, in April and October. He's targeting an unreached people group with 500,000 population. And their first convert was about 4 years ago. And he's gone back, I think, twice a year for 3 years. He started taking another guy with him. And it's exciting to be a part of a congregation that they're still small, but their heart is for the nations. And so I'm here seeing this particular part of your association. You're developing a heart for the nations. Now, the other introductory comment, besides Hispanics are a missionary field but a missionary force, I wanted to quote David Platt, who's the IMB president. He said, "I am convinced that the growth of the Hispanic population is part of the plan of God among the nations." And his text that he used is in Acts chapter 17, verses 26 and 27. So, Brother Clay, when he said this was going to be recorded, I says, okay, this is going to go on. And it's Acts 17, 26 and 27. Okay. "From one man he made every nation of men, that they should inhabit the whole earth. And he determined the times set for them, and the exact places where they should live. God did this so that men would seek him and perhaps reach out for him and find him, though he is not far from each of us." And the context there, we know he's there in Athens. But that passage of Scripture really applies to what we're living in the state of Tennessee, in the larger cities. The nations are coming to the United States. In the ministry that we work, I ask, individually, but also when we're together in workshops and things, and I ask the Hispanics, how many of you, when you came to the States, did not know Christ, were not an evangelical Christian? And it's amazing how, especially the first generation, would say, no, when I came to the States, I was looking for the American dream, or I was escaping violence or gangs or the poverty, or their house had been torn by a hurricane and they wanted to start over here instead of stay there. And so they would come not thinking about their spiritual life, but being around evangelical Christians, they have found Christ. And so I think that's an encouraging word, that God is bringing the people to this nation. And we need to be receptive and anticipate and willing and open to see the nations. Okay? So that's kind of the introduction. That's kind of to get the ball rolling. What I've handed out is sort of nuts and bolts. Brother Clay asked me to just kind of put together some of my thoughts. If we were sitting down drinking coffee and saying, okay, where do you start? What are some of the things you need to think about? And so this is just a summary of some of the things that I would think would be most important. Okay? When you work with Hispanics, you need to think of the word relational with capital letters. They are very relational. And that means that you don't get hurried, you take your time, well, to give you an idea, when I pastored in Michigan, we would have the the day of the week where you go out and you visit your church members and you witness. In Michigan, I would make 3 or 4 visits in an evening. Well, in Uruguay, I didn't get through with one. It was just, you go there and you just plan on being there for a while. And so, it's one of the things when you begin to work cross-culturally, you need to adapt not just to the language, but how they actually are involved in with their values, with the way they make decisions, with the way they see time and relationships. Those who are not legal, they have fewer roots. There's usually more men. They're working to send money back to their home country, so they try to keep a low profile. And the idea is they don't want to cause any problems, any trouble, because they are trying to support themselves here and sending more other money back. There's some post-election tension and issues. I'm not going to go into a lot of detail there. The guys the pastors and church leaders that I work with, they know about the sovereignty of God. They realize their life is in God's hands, and they're not anxious. But the general, at least in Memphis, there's some bullying going on. This would go on in the school, but also in the work environment. Thank you again for the opportunity, and I'll be here for questions and hopefully some answers. Okay. There's some worry, anxiousness, and so they're not really sure about what's going to happen. And so that's something that that's causing insecurity and even fear. Not so much with mature, dedicated Christians, but maybe some of the people that you would be wanting to work with, okay? Also, Hispanics have differences in different cultures. Now just imagine if you were going to try to put an Australian who speaks English, a New Zealander who speaks English, someone from California, New York, Canada, and Great Britain. And you were going to begin a church plant with 9 different families who all spoke English, but they were from different countries. Okay? Now, sometimes when we think of Hispanics, we think of Hispanics. But it may be there's a pocket here from Guatemala, or there may be a pocket from Honduras, or maybe Mexico. And it may be your strategy, instead of trying to put them all together with one, is have 3 different groups. Maybe they can meet together, or maybe meet in different ways. But that's one of the things as you look at it. They could be from the same country and still be different. There's actually in Memphis, there is an indigenous church. They're called their ethnic group is Mam, but they're all from Guatemala. They're Guatemalans, but they're from an ethnic group within Guatemala. And so they have found their congregation, and 95% of that particular Hispanic church is Mam. And they can speak Mam, but they also speak Spanish, and now they're learning English. And so you would think maybe some of the Hispanics in this area, they are Hispanics, but they could be indigenous Hispanics from one of the countries. Ask more questions other than, are you a Christian group? And I wasn't really sure what I was going to see today, but this is for the future, okay? You guys have a location. But some of the people will come and they'll ask the church, can we use your facilities? And because of the language barrier, this happens in Memphis, is, well, yeah, we're a Christian group. Well, they may not be Baptist. And so you want to have someone who knows Spanish to come and do an interview, or at least talk to them over the phone, so that you can use the resources that Baptists have, have invested in to reach, of course, Christians, but of like-minded faith. When you begin to think about a strategy, there's multiple layers. These 90 homes that are in the area, plus the 3,000 people. Some of those would be called first-generation Christians. They're going to have almost no English. They're going to need help with shopping, help with getting documents, help with getting their kids' homework done. The first generation, if you see, then your strategy moves in one direction. There may be some who are second generation, who came here as small children. Maybe they were born here, and they're bilingual, and sometimes they are more Hispanic than a North American. Sometimes they're more North American than Hispanic. And they have a dual culture. And so that a second generation church might have English Sunday school for the children. But the adults are still in Spanish. And so you're thinking, well, I can't help in a Hispanic mission, in a Hispanic church, I don't know Spanish. Well, you can work with the children, because they're going to know English. And so this is not something that you have to have Spanish in order to be involved in the ministry here. Okay? And then there's some time, actually there's people who have been here a long time, and it's not just the first or second generation. Their grandparents were here, and so they have more assimilated, but they still have affinities. Okay, now when you get this, another thing that happens is the couple. You may have someone who has fallen in love with a North American, and so one is basically Hispanic, but the other one is North American. And so that is happening more and more in the area, especially in Memphis. And so there's need for bivocational, or not bivocational, but second generation churches. Okay, some of the models that are being used. There's the model that's where the church is functioning. They have the Anglo congregation, and they are letting the Hispanics come in and use some Sunday school space. They're reaching out and with Vacation Bible School, ESL, and it's sort of like a Hispanic ministry of that same church. They're using part of the facilities, the fellowship hall, or that's the situation that we have in Pueblo de Dios, where I'm interim pastor. The Anglos are meeting in the main building. We have what would be called part of the student building, and then there's an Indian congregation meeting in another part of the church. So they're shared facilities. Another model is the Hispanic church plant with a local church. And this is similar to the way you have one church that adopts an area, and they just began to love on the Hispanics and began to move forward. And it's basically the traditional church by addition. And then there's the third way that's maybe it's daunting, and it's, wow, that's a whole lot bigger that's a bigger elephant than what we were thinking about. But I wanted to put it down as a challenge, and as you're praying through some of this, think about this third model. It's multiple church plants at the same time. Now, what does that mean? Well, this could be a church plant here. But in this 10-mile radius, say there's a trailer park that's 7 miles away. Another trailer park or neighborhood that's 4 miles away in the total opposite direction. One model would say try to get all these people together to come here. Okay? Another model, this third model, is let's start a group at the trailer park. Let's start a group there. They meet during the week, and they are a vibrant community. They do body life. You know, they have their groups, and then maybe they come here on Sunday. And so the person that would come here, they could have one vision to try to get everybody to come to a building. But another way of looking at this is that the people are moving towards the Hispanics, wherever they might be. And involved in this is you use homes, you use trailer parks. The Doug Landrum illustration, at the trailer park where they had their first church plant, they allowed them to use the conference room or the common room. And so it might be better in the strategy to start something there where the people are, get them involved, get known by them, begin to know their children, get something started there, and then let them know about this. That's just something I needed to let you know. The other thing is, as you investigate and find out more about the demographics, find out if they're bilingual, if they're just purely Hispanic. If you have more bilingual people than you do Hispanics, you may need to find whoever comes as the leader may need to have not just Spanish but English also. So that goes into looking at the different models. Okay, the next section. When we get done, hold your questions, and I know there's got to be lots of questions and all this. But where are the future leaders? I didn't bring 25 resumes of people who may be interested. Okay, we're developing. But one of the things that I wanted you guys to know, that there's help from other churches. A good model is Wilfredo Hernandez. He pastors a church in Union City and in Bells. He's a Hispanic pastor with 2 congregations. He has networked during the summer with Lucy Baptist Church, with David Lawrence, with Vacation Bible School. Because when Lucy Baptist does their Vacation Bible School, one of their targets is a Hispanic trailer park. Well, it's 90% of the people in that trailer park, about 60 different trailers, mobile homes, are Hispanic. And that has developed into the beginnings of Bible study. It's not a church yet, but they're having Bible studies as a result of block parties. Volunteers have come in during the summer. Wilfredo's helped with Vacation Bible School. So that's one of the way that you develop leaders, is that you get people from other groups to come in and begin to train the Hispanics here to do the same thing. Church planting, one of the things that's going to be going on in Memphis that we're trying to build momentum, and this is actually training Hispanic church planters. Not so much pastors. We may have a track for Hispanic pastors, but it's primarily Hispanic church planters. Many of the Hispanics are looking to pastor a congregation. And we're just maybe going to need to raise up our own church planters in West Tennessee, okay? Fortunately, there are pastors who are pastoring a church but also have a missionary heart, who are starting new work. Levon that's here, he's done that in Brownsville. He's pastoring a church, but he's also starting a mission. And so that's a good, and this thing we're doing is going to start in March. We're going to have a week of intensive training, have a module, and then for 3 months or 2 months they're going to go out and do what we've talked about in the module. And so that's one of our methods. Another is with the Tennessee Baptist Convention. William Burton is the, he's got a long title, strategy coordinator. He's involved in church planning, and he's the Hispanic ethnic consultant. And that's not his right title, but it's a long drawn out. But he is a good resource. And one of the things that's being done throughout Tennessee, it's called 151, where one person has a heart to reach 5 people to start one group. So it's a focus on getting training to try to get a group of 5 people together who can they become Christians, and then you try to form a group. And this is being done, and several of the Hispanic church plants, this was the model that was being used. Last year there were 21 church plants in Tennessee with Hispanics. Okay? So that's one of the reasons I'm saying that the Hispanics are a missionary force as well. They are being involved in planting churches. Basic Training Center for Pastors. This is a 10-book series. It's very similar to Seminary Extension. Levon's one of the professors. I teach this. Daniel Tuches is another one in the area. And this is another resource. It's longer. It's more bent toward pastoring than church planting. And in terms of when you get to the point of trying to find someone, William Burton would be a good resource to ask for resumes. I have a few, but we can try to help with that. The other way, when you begin to look at resources, is this person you're thinking about full-time, part-time, or look for a volunteer. Maybe someone who's actually here in the area who can just help out for a period of time. So that has its own ramifications of how you decide you want to move in that approach. The last thing on the list is some outreach ministry options that are they're here, but you just can expand on them, and there's others, okay? Life groups in Spanish. The VBS follow up with Hispanic families. Okay, these are things that most Southern Baptist churches are doing. I mean, they have life groups, they have Bibles, small groups sometimes during the week, vacation Bible school. So one of the ideas in your mentality is, okay, our association is adopting, reaching out to Hispanics. And so you've got 40-something churches. Let's say this summer, 30 of them have some kind of vacation Bible school. But the approach this summer is when you do your inviting in your areas, you have a way to invite the Hispanic families to your vacation Bible school. Now they're going to come to your church this summer, okay? But when they're there with you during vacation Bible school for that week, you get contact information. And as you begin to grow this process, you begin to feed the Hispanic contacts to the group that's in charge, the task force, or if there's somebody in place at that time. So the idea is mentality. There's a church that meets at Bartlett Baptist Church. It's the newest Hispanic church in our association. That church started 4 years ago as a life group. It was just another Sunday school class that spoke Spanish in that room. And after 4 years, it's now a church. Franklin Rosas is the pastor. He's from Venezuela, and he's a St. Jude survivor. He came to the States with a terminal illness, and he's got an awesome testimony. He ran the marathon Sunday. So that's just a parenthesis. Okay, sports, primarily soccer. Some of the Hispanic countries, Dominican Republic, Cuba, Venezuela, you can use baseball. Use the local schools. If you have contacts, teachers, one of the things that is very needed is to have help with the children's homework. They take, the kids trying to learn, something, and the mom and dad don't know English. I mean, they don't understand. And so you can network and be resource people for the school. And as you make contacts and build friendships, build those relationships, well then they can become involved in your local churches, and then as you meet the Hispanics, you can begin to say, hey listen, we also have a church, and you can tell them about this location. We've already mentioned ESL. Something that's less complicated is conversational classes. Now all of your churches can do this. If you find some Hispanics at Kroger's or Walmart, you just, you can go up and say, I'm interested in learning Spanish. Okay? And I would be interested in helping you learn English. Do you want to meet with me for an hour or a couple hours every week? And we'll do 30 minutes in English and 30 minutes in Spanish. Now you don't need any training. I mean, you just try to talk and point. How do you say, and you just start where you're at. But sometimes when we think, oh, I'm not sure if I'm qualified, but conversation is and so that's a way that you get to know them and build those relationships. The other thing is four-field training. You can talk more. I can talk more about Clay about that, but it's something that Zach Medlock and Doug Landrum and I were. It's a way to build from the very beginning a lifestyle of discipleship. So at the very beginning, the new converts are involved in ongoing lifestyle discipleship instead of having just the mentality of attending a service. Use stateside holidays. Thanksgiving, Easter, Christmas, 4th of July are good opportunities for you to share the culture that we have here. And they can be outreach events. Volunteer teams, of course, as you move forward in the spring. Movie nights, Christian movies, share the, pizza, popcorn. These are ways that you can, it's like we are. There's food involved. It's a good way to build relationships. Block parties, anything that you can help with the children is greatly appreciated. And if there's someone who is in the association who would begin to want to be trained or want to help them work through the process of their documentation, that's also a very highly sought after felt need that they might have. So this is kind of some nuts and bolts to just kind of help you begin to pull together. It's kind of like, how do you eat an elephant? It's just, where do you start? And you just begin to do, one bite at a time. Just concentrate on one thing at a time. I would encourage you, and through all of this, is to make this a matter of prayer in your churches. I know Mount Lebanon's been praying all the way through this as we just got through hearing. But as we begin to pray for the Hispanics, there's an adoption that takes place, and you begin to open your heart up to the nations, and God will honor that. And God is moving in your church, in your association, and I just think having a location here is an affirmation. And the last, I think that one of the most important things that I could leave with you is this is a huge blessing, but don't let the building determine your strategy. Okay? It's a big part of your strategy, but don't let it become the only strategy.